how I added over 80 pounds to my bench press naturally. A few years ago, I could only bench 260 pounds, and now I can bench over 340 pounds. Here's how I did it. And well, from 14 to 17 years old, my chest days looked pretty much like this. 4 sets of 10 flat bench, followed by 4 sets of 10 decline with heavier weight, and then followed by 4 sets of 10 incline with lighter weight than the previous 2. Then I would move on to 4 sets of 15 to 20 bodyweight dips, and then 4 sets of 15 dumbbell flies. And I did that for my lifts about every single chest day for 4 years straight, and which led to me benching my first run rep max at 17 years old, 260 pounds. And there's 3 main things I think owe a lot of credit to that. Number 1, not overthinking how much volume or exhaustion or rest time between sets I should be getting. I kept it simple. I did the lifts. 2, doing lots of volume. Now, I know this point is especially contested with certain groups of people about how much volume you should be getting within your workout, but to be honest, I think the proof is in the pudding, and if it works, and it did for me. I did a lot of volume throughout my workouts. It might be different for you though, but it worked for me. Number 3, brutal consistency. I would sometimes work out multiple times a day, and so because of that, I would hit chest every 2 to 3 days. This is particularly because from 13 to 17 years old, I was still struggling to find an identity in a constantly changing, unsure environment around me. And so lifting sometimes multiple times a day kind of gave me an anchor to hold on to in the erupting chaos of teenage identity crisis. I'd say the hardest part of my bench press journey was between 275 pounds and 315 pounds. And so what I did was I started doing 2 to 3 sets of 4 reps with 275 pounds on flat bench. I would do other chest exercises too, but I had a particular focus on flat bench since that was an exercise to help build my chest and my chest strength. Now every chest day I would hit flat bench, 275 pounds, 2 to 3 sets of 4 reps. I can now do that same exercise, 275 pounds flat bench, but for 10 reps. The progressive overload on top of just deciding to eat more and not really care if I had an 8-pack or 6-pack at the time allowed me to grow into my body and get stronger. And so about a year later, from 160 pounds when I benched 315 to about 170 pounds with the same body fat percentage, I was able to hit 335 pounds. And about 6 months later, I hit 345 pounds with arguably 1 more rep left in the tank. Now, in terms of the actual workout itself, a good back warm-up is a pretty good idea. It's pretty helpful as it increases blood flow in your upper abdomen, lubricates your joints and tendons, as well as primes your stabilizing muscles like your shoulder scapula and your rear delts. Next, be sure to warm up properly. When I used to lift with a few buddies of mine, they would always jump from a measly 10 reps of just the bar to a whole plate on each side. Now, the problem was they couldn't even bench 200 pounds. So 135 pounds for your warm-up set is well over 60% of your 1 rep max. That's gonna cause a high potential for injuries. What would ultimately happen is a few sets later, they would complain about feeling extremely weak, but really they just weren't training smart. So for example, if your 1 rep max is 200 pounds, after using the bar, try to put on a 25-pound plate on each side for a few reps, and then only when your body is ready and lubricated do you put a plate on each side. The timeline of my bench PRs goes as follows. 17 years old, my first 1 rep max, 260 pounds. Then 275 pounds before I turned 18, then 350 pounds before I turned 19, and then now finally 340 pounds at 20 years old. Yes, my first bench PR was not 185 or 225, it was 260. In fact, I never even attempted or thought of a 1 rep max beforehand. That's about it for this video. Short one today. Hope you guys appreciate it. I'll see you in the next one. Consider subscribing. Peace.
Without that bitch, then you know it's up. It's 200 on my wrist and my blick is up. Oh, you say you want the fashion, you gon' get